So hi, I'm Jackie Swift. I'm joined today by Brontë Clare Mitchell, founder of Femme Country Magazine. Brontë, thank you so much for joining us. I'm delighted to have you as a guest. Really excited to hear about your journey.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Likewise. And so, Brontë, tell me a little bit about yourself. So I understand that you actually started the magazine whilst you were at university. How was that?
Yeah, well, the magazine came about, I always say it's like a sliding doors effect, which is what happened in my journey. But it is a long story, but I'll try and shorten it. But yeah, I was, when I was at school, I loved fashion and loved writing. And so it just meant that my passion was to go straight into fashion journalism and head straight down to London. That was what I always wanted to do. And I managed to secure a place at all the top fashion universities, which was incredible. And so I ended up picking London College of Fashion and heading down in, I think it was 2018 now. And yeah, I just didn't really like it. I think going from like a really rural setting at home and experiencing life really in like a small environment where, you know, you don't really see that many people. I grew up on just outside of a farm. And so going into a big city was a huge change. And I think in my head, I thought it was the right one for me. But experiencing it, it just didn't happen that way. And I loved the university. I learned so much in my short time there. But just felt like I just needed to go back home. And I was truly, truly gutted. I honestly was on the train back thinking my whole life has come crashing down. All my dreams, all my aspirations that I worked for had just stopped because I'd pulled out of uni, decided to go back home. And it was when I was in this phase of, right, I need to move universities. And I applied for a place at York St John that I was told that I might not get in. And so I had so many friends who already had, you know, things planned. They were going on holidays or they had a job lined up or were taking a gap year. And I just had none of that. And so it was quite a scary sort of time for me. And basically in that time of not knowing whether I'd get into university, I created the magazine just as a portfolio type thing. And I saw a huge gap in the market for spotlighting women, specifically in the country industry. And so I just kind of started it, popped it on Instagram, and it just developed from there, really. And I managed to get a place at university in York. And so miraculously ended up having a business and being at uni at the same time. So it was a bit crazy, a bit of a whirlwind.
So it was definitely a journey for you.
Massively.
And obviously, like leaving home, leaving Yorkshire, going to London, you were at a real significant crossroad in your life in respect of what you should do.
Yeah.
But you must have felt quite deeply about the need to come back home and move away from the London life. It just wasn't the correct fit for you. That must have been very difficult. It must have been a hard decision for you to make at such a young age.
Yeah.
So what drove that decision? Was it your gut? Was it something that you spoke to your family and friends about? How did you reach that decision?
It was purely just, I sort of took every day. I was like, do you know what? Tomorrow will be different. And it was nothing on the university. I always preach this. I would advise anyone to go to London College of Fashion. It was incredible. It was just a living. And I think like every day I thought I'll meet new people. And you know what they say about London, like it can be a really lonely place. And I truly experienced that. And I can wholesomely say I've never been, I've never been in a point of depression in my life, but that was a really low point where I was thinking, gosh, right, do we take one journey or do we stay here, live it out, see what happens, take each day? And I think my sadness and my mentality in that point just took over. And I did speak to my family and I just said, this is the right thing for me now, is to come home, just to drop everything and at that time, hopefully find a new path that I can go on. But yeah, it was really scary. And like I said before, I genuinely thought, I've worked, so hard at school with A-levels. I did extracurricular, all for to go down to London, and now this isn't happening. And it was really upsetting. But I mean, I look back on it now and I think it was just meant to be, because if I hadn't have come home, I wouldn't be sitting here today talking to you. So
no, I mean, what an amazing journey to have that moment of realization and believe in yourself, to know that it was a difficult decision, but know that it was the right one for you. So talk to me about that first edition that you put together, that you just decided, okay, well, I'm just going to do this little passion project. What did it look like? What were the pages like?
It was definitely a passion project. Honestly, I'd never touched any sort of software. I'd only written kind of like on Word before. And if I'm being brutally honest, I had no idea what I was doing. I just thought, let's just learn on the job. At the time, I was learning a lot of InDesign and Photoshop at university. So I kind of coincided the two and put the skills into making the magazine that I had. And so the first issue came out in January 2019. And I shot the front cover by myself with my own camera. And I shot it in what is now Wild and Westbrook in York. And they are a beautiful luxury country stockist. And they had just opened at the time. And I basically reached out to them and said, can I come and shoot a front cover in your, it was in their like loft space where all the stock was. And I put up like a makeshift sheet that I bought from Amazon, and just kind of did it all by myself. And then they said they would stock it in turn. So we kind of worked together in that sense. And then the power of Instagram and social media, that embraced more people getting to know the magazine. People were seeing it in their store. And I think it really did grow organically. Like I said before, like I never intentionally wanted this to be a business. It was never something, it was purely, so if I had a gap year, I could get into uni, and I'd done something throughout that year. So to then be kind of thrust into, I had so many people saying like, how can I order this? Where's your website? And I was like, I don't have a website. Like I don't have anything. So I was kind of like the business was, I guess, put onto me, but I can't like thank enough for the way it's happened, because I love what I do and I wouldn't change it.
And you're clearly excellent at what you do. I mean, you've built the magazine, your brand from scratch. And one of those journeys for you has been self-funding that magazine.
Massively.
Whilst at university, whilst going through a moment in your life that you thought, I don't know if this is what I want, where I should go. I mean, that takes a lot of courage and a lot of drive. Talk to me a little bit about that and how you found the funding from your own, from your own accounts.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think I had anything in my bank account, not in a term for business. I had my own savings. And so a lot of that, I was working from 16, I was working part-time in hospitality. So I had a lot of savings from that. And so I just basically put it all into the magazine. But I was really pushing for print. I think print is really stigmatized as not doing well. It's against digital, it's really going downhill. And I completely am really passionate about the fact that it's not. And I think like the fact that I've taken this from nothing to a big business kind of proves that point, not only about print, but that you can build something from scratch. And don't get me wrong, I've had lots of help, but everything that's been put into this business has completely been self-funded by me. It is just me. There's no investors. I don't have a business partner. And it is quite scary, but it has been really fun to kind of navigate that as well. And I think when I got into my second year of uni, I was chatting to all my friends, where are you going to go after uni? What are you doing? And I sort of knew that this was going to be my full-time job really at sort of the second semester of second year at university. I thought I'm going to be a business owner. I'm going to be an editor. It was kind of set up for me. And I guess the scariest thing about that was once uni was done, where do I go? Where do I take it next? And I really champion people who start businesses from scratch. I know I've got a lot of friends who, you know, will be in sort of family businesses and have sort of brought it up with their parents and are really strong advocates for like a family business. And I love looking at that. But I really strongly relate to not just women, any business owner who has literally taken an idea from a small minuscule thing to a huge brand that, you know, can now be seen all over the world. I really, you know, admire that.
I mean, that's going to be immensely satisfying for you as well, because you've not just focused on, like you say, on the print side that, you know, a lot of people see as a dying side of magazines and fashions. As in, for me, I love picking up, you know, a magazine and going through the glossy pages and, you know, sectioning the bits that I love. It's amazing because you get to see, and it's a different experience than just, you know, going through the phone. And it's just so beautiful that you're advocating for that as well and proving that it is a success.
Yeah.
But also, you know, you're shining a light on women in the countryside. So, you know, obviously you've got really close ties to the countryside. You were brought up in Yorkshire. You know, how did you want to shine that spotlight in, you know, the rural side?
I guess for me, it was just every time I saw something on the media or something on television or I read something, it was just always male orientated. And don't get me wrong, I love shows like Countryfile and you know, Clarkson's Farm, and I think they really are pushing for farming and this representation of the countryside, which a lot of us deem very you know, everyone's riding around in Range Rovers, and it's just not the true representation. So I admire people doing that. However, I was struck on the fact that they were all male. Even the Countryfile presenters, a lot of them, and still are male. When you would go to the NEC and you see all these country exhibitions, again, a lot of it was male orientated. And so I had a lot of friends, a lot of girlfriends who were, you know, getting in the overalls, going out on the tractors, doing exactly the same as what the men do. But for some reason, it just wasn't spoken about enough. And in turn, I loved how these girls represented their fashion with what they did. Even if they had, you know, a flock of sheep, there was something that they would wear that represented that and that showed that. And I was just really admired by it. And so I felt there's a true gap here, not just in media, but specifically in print. And I love print. My father's in print. And I just thought, what a great way to start and to go into this industry. And at the very beginning, I was really pitching for print. I felt that every sort of client that came through the door, every brand, I'd really have to sit down with them and say, look, I can show you this is working. And I can show you why you should invest in us instead of choosing to go on Instagram ads or, you know, Facebook, or choosing to go digital marketing. You can work hand in hand with us. And I feel like I'm having to do that less now as the magazine grows, which is really, really good. But yeah, at the start, I was really, you know, sort of doing two things. I was advocating for the women, but also really pushing the print aspect, which I was really passionate about.
So is that something that you saw as your unique selling point in respect of what you brought to the table? So
Definitely.
When you spoke to these individuals in respect of promoting the magazine and getting them to, you know, get it to print and getting it out there, what would you say to them in respect of, okay, this is why you should kind of trust us. This is why we're different. How did you sell yourself and the magazine?
I think we just had something unique. I was always told that Femme was like the country catalogue. We were... I
love that.
Yeah, we were like the country catalogue. We showed... I guess the other term I got lots was you are the rural Vogue.
Amazing.
Which I was like, tick, we're doing the right thing if people are saying that. And weirdly, when I was in London, I used to work for Country Living and I used to work in their offices there. And I don't know why, but I had this image of, gosh, everyone will be so country, like everyone will have come from rural backgrounds. And it just wasn't the case. And actually, the connection, that big sort of publications have, because they need to meet a certain demand, is that they would have someone that would do copywriting, someone would go out and do the interview, whereas I sort of like to do it all myself, or have one writer do one thing, so that the relationship is kept, the connection is kept. Because when I was working in London and doing some interning down there, I would get a story through and I'd never even met the people who were involved in it. And so how was I meant to write a 500-word article about some people that I've never met, a business that I've never seen in person? And so it was quite hard. And I think that was another thing that I pitched with Femme, was that we keep this connection, we drive sort of this ambition and make sure the relationship is tied into us as well, so that we mirror each other from a brand to publication perspective. And yeah, just sort of go from that way. That was what I was pitching. And we have such beautiful campaigns, such beautiful photography. Every time we do a photo shoot, I'm like in awe of seeing like the mood boards that we've created then come to life with these amazing women. And I think altogether, we are more than a publication. I always say that. Every event we do, we're so much more than what you see on print. And I think our readership can vouch for that. We have so many events. I now run an annual fashion show, which is huge. We do events up and down the country. So I try and advocate for print primarily, but then I also know that we need to do X, Y, and Z in marketing, in event space, to not only keep us afloat, but also keep our readership engaged. Because I don't want them to kind of come to Femme and realise, oh, well, we only see you like every so often come through the door. I want us to be there like prominently all the time. Your
presence.
Yeah, the presence. I want to be there consistently. If you're not seeing us on print, you're seeing us in an event space. If not on digital, on website. And I think that's what's made us into not only a strong publication, but a strong brand and business too.
Amazing. And talk to me a little bit about the fashion events and, where is it? How do you curate it? How do you put it all together? How do you get, the people to take part? What's the team
honestly
like?
So fun. I can't even... Running a fashion show was never something on my bingo card for life, but it's now a thing that we do every year. And again, it was just a thing that I created as, what can we do that's different? A lot of brands were doing, especially a lot of rural brands were doing kind of like content creation for influencers or brands. And for me, it was just something that we didn't want to do. We wanted to focus our time on photo shoots that go in the magazine. But I knew that in COVID time, everyone was lacking this sense of connection with their clothing. And I think we got so drawn onto digital. A lot of us were buying online. And I know I, for one, was buying so much online that I had to send it all back because I didn't realize the quality of things.
Yes.
And it was from there, really, that I thought people need to see how clothes move. They need to see and touch the quality. They need to be more acquainted with who they're buying from, the sustainability behind these things. And these were all factors that I think COVID, in the time when we were all at home, made me realize, like, things need to change. And so the fashion show was one of the ideas towards that, to partner with brands that you would only really see online. We worked with strong brands like Jules, who are a huge advocate in rural heritage clothing in country, and just basically made a catwalk, got models who we really strongly connected with. They were either subscribers, influencers, or people that genuinely just wanted to put themselves out there. Not once have I gone to a modelling agency. And that was something that I really wanted to push for, was that it was genuine consumers who loved the brands, who loved Femme, who loved the products that we were showcasing with these brands.
You wanted the connection to be there.
Exactly. And I think, I will put it out there. I've worked with a lot of modelling agencies who they take a big cut for a start. I have a lot of people come in, they do their job, and then they leave, and you don't get to see that really strong connection or even get to know a brand, more on a more personal level. And I think that's what influencers and working with people that even you may know really influxes into brands. And so the fashion show was also about that. So so we run it every year around autumn time in York. We had it in the gorgeous De Grey rooms, which is like a big Georgian ballroom. And it was just beautiful. And yeah, it is a crazy thing. My team, when we do it, we kind of look at each other like, what are we doing this year? Like, what are we kind of achieving? Because it is so crazy. Like the day is and the run up to it is just, there's just so much going on. But to see it happen in the evening and to see what everyone says after, it's just, I don't have words to describe it because it is very awe-inspiring. But you're also like, God, we just did that. And to see the amazing smiles and feedback that have specifically from women as well is just incredible. And I had so many people say to me, I've never seen a fashion show with such inclusivity, representation, but also something that was genuine. Like you felt like you could actually see yourself on that runway. And I had so many women come up to me and say, how do I get involved? And I just thought, well, we've done our job if that's what they're saying after. So yeah, the same goes with across all of our events. I think it's creating that engaging and strong connectivity with our readers that I can, honestly say what you see inside our print magazines, you will get face-to-face with our team. You'll get that in our events. And it's really nice. And it's quite genuine and honest. And what I don't get wrong, I'm a massive magazine lover. I wouldn't be if I wasn't in this business. But I can't look at Vogue and relate to it in a way that's like, oh, well, I know the writers and I know, who did this setup and I saw it happen on Instagram. I think we see the big picture and what maybe they put out, but there's not so much that personality. And I think that's what I'm trying to tailor within the magazine industry and hope that we're doing that successfully with Femme.
It's kind of like the relatability as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's so many people that will come to me and say, I've seen a photo shoot and I really relate to that. We did a shoot with the beautiful Liz Fletcher, Calvin Fletcher, who won Strictly Come Dancing, his wife, and they just bought a farm. And she got poo, just all down one of the outfits. And I remember her saying oh, let's cut this out. And I was like, no, let's keep this in. It's completely, it's genuine.
Yes.
This is what happens when you're on a farm. It's not going to be, pristine all the time. And, I think that's why we connect so well with our readers, and they see people like Liz, who's on our front cover, and then they want to reach out to her because they've seen what we've done. And I think, again, it just makes me so happy that these are the kind of projects and ventures that we're building up.
And I mean, obviously from looking at the magazine, it's just absolutely beautiful. It's curated so beautifully as well. But it's not just all, fashion and glamour. There's a lot of hard work that goes behind the scenes in pulling this all together for you and your team.
Massively.
Do you want to talk to me a little bit about the challenges or, the difficulties, that grit, determination that has to go behind every issue to ensure that almost that glossy perfection and that relatability that's so important to you comes across?
It's funny that you say grit and determination because my dad says that all the time about me. Those are the two words that he always puts together. I think don't get me wrong, it's had its challenges. And I think if a business isn't having challenges, there's something wrong. I've learned from every single one that has happened. A massive one, for example, we had on a few years ago, all the print came back from the printers, and my printers were actually unaware of this, and so were we, but it all came back ungraded. So all the lights, imagine just all the colour had been sucked out of the magazine. And me and my team were like, oh my goodness, what do we do? We had to ship out to, our subscribers, back copy readers, orders online. And I think in that moment, that was definitely a panic moment. We all could have just gone, what the hell do we do now? But I think from it, we learned so much. We learned so much about doing multiple approvals. Let's talk before we do this. Let's go up and see the magazine, 3-4 times if we have to. And because of that, it's meant that it's never happened again. And I think that's the beauty of having challenges. And I think with print, the challenge is print itself. It was at the start putting that out there and making sure people believe in it as much as I believe in it. And I know that it thrives. And again, I guess that was just my sort of, when I went into meetings, my passion towards it. I sort of said at the beginning, I can make numbers. I can make this happen. I can get X amount of subscribers in a certain amount of time. And I can show you that I can do that. So will you then advertise with us if we can do that? And I did it and then came back and proved. And yeah, having a team behind is essential. I think like I wouldn't be here if I hadn't lent on shoulders. My dad has been a huge, huge help. I used to sit in meetings, again, with purely men from the print industry who would be throwing jargon at me like nobody's business. And I would genuinely kind of come out of the meetings. I have no idea what that hour was about. And my dad was very strong in letting me know and saying, this is what this means. And looking back now, I think, again, the whole gender misrepresentation in business, it would have been nice to have that. Well, she is a bit young. I had so many questions, but it was like full fire of, you know, even dimensions of paper, things like that was just crazy. Things I didn't know about. But again, asking people, talking to people, that was my main point of call. And that's how we built a team of strong, gorgeous women who absolutely love Femme Country. One of them works part-time for me, and I used to go to uni with her, and I can call her up tomorrow and be like, we've got this shoot, give me some ideas, and she's there, and she's honestly amazing. And I honestly wouldn't be doing what I do without a team behind me. Yeah.
And it must be great that you know that you have a team that you can pull from, that's supportive, that's also behind your vision and your values. Yeah. And obviously, you know, for you, you've obviously built that team from a place that's very close to your heart. So talk to me about being a female leader in, you know, the countryside. You said that it's, you know, very heavily male dominated. How have you found that, you know, coming up in business as a woman has been for you? What impacts and challenges do you feel that you faced? And, you know, is there anything that you're particularly proud of, a particular achievement, a milestone that you might have reached that made you go in that moment and go, do you know what, I did that, and that's me?
Yeah, there's so many achievements that I've kind of stood back and gone, wow, like that happened, we did that. Every single person we get on the front cover, the women just get, I don't want to say better and better because that's not the term that I would use, but so I think we get women every season who are new, different, unique, inspiring, and they always have something else to like bring to the table. And I think that's so nice because as much as we are a female-orientated magazine and we want to spotlight these stories, every single one is different. And every single woman comes to the table, sort of like your podcast really, they'll come with a unique story, something passionate that they'd like to speak about. And often it's something that in my head I thought, they'll want to talk about this, and we just go on a divergent and it's not what they want to talk about, which is incredible. And I think, again, I have this very strong opinion about women working with women. And I've witnessed it so much throughout my career, especially working alongside lots of women.
Are you talking about the queen bee phenomenon?
Yes.
Yes. You're very passionate about this. Do you want to just take a pause there and explain to our listeners who might not be familiar with this, what does it mean?
It's very, it has a lot of, I'd say, levels to it and hierarchies, but ultimately it's when a woman in a power of business, or let's say at the top of their hierarchy in a business area, will, I guess, see a sort of battle against another woman who might be in the same field. And I guess for me, it is, unfortunately, women are kind of known to do that. And I think it's ingrained in us. As much as I don't want to say that, it is. I mean, you look at Bridgerton, in the Regency era, women were battling with women to get their betrothed and their man at the end. And if that meant going through, multiple women, which was mothers, friendships, they did that because the ultimate goal was to get married. And I do think that's why it has been ingrained in us to not necessarily be against one another, but to have these jealousies or to have these spiteful kind of things that are against one another. And I have two views on it. My one-sided view is that, don't get me wrong, there's all been a woman in our lives who we've gone, I don't know why, but I just don't like her. And I think that's okay. And we all have that. There's, I've had it many a time where I've looked at someone and gone, I don't have a reason, but there's just something that doesn't sit well with me, and that I won't, I won't want to associate myself with her, and that's fine. And I am really open to doing, I really know that we have that.
You have that gut instinct.
Yeah, the gut instinct. Yes. Yeah, and I think you're allowed to dislike whoever you want in this world, and that's absolutely fine. However, it's when it becomes into a business place that it doesn't sit well with me, because ultimately we should be going against the grain. Women have done so much for this world, this country. Why should we be battling against one another in business when we're meant to be lifting one another up? And don't get me wrong, I've seen it. I've been involved in a lot of personal business ventures with another female where I saw it going in one direction and it's just completely flipped. And I've had no idea why. And there's been this sort of grey area, which you can only determine is because, again, the queen bee phenomenon has come in, or something's happened. And I just think in this world we should be, lifting one another up. Whenever I chat to a female who's in the magazine, I honestly learn something every single time. I could chat with them for hours and meet them every single week, and I will learn something new or take something from them. And again, it's like the leaning on one another. I think it's so important, especially as women. We have such strong, and actually, sometimes the reason I think we dislike one another is because we're so like-minded. We know what our next moves are and what she's going to do next. And I think we should take that into more of a positive mind space and say, well, what she just did was very strong-minded, but I like it. I like what she did. She was very out there, and I'm going to use that next time I go into a meeting. And I think that should be our move forward. Instead of being against one another. I recently went to watch the new film Baby Girl with Nicole Kidman, and apart from all the eroticism in it, it had a very strong female representation. She's a big CEO, and she has a PA who's also a female. And she basically finds out that she's been in this illicit affair with someone. And she says, why are you acting like a male dominant in this area? You're acting like someone who should be taking advantage of people in the workspace, blah, blah, blah. And she tries to use her power to basically silence her and say, well, I'll tell people if you give me a promotion. And I was watching it thinking like, gosh, this happens. Women are against each other in power, in representation. And it shouldn't be like that. And I think there should be more. I'd like to think with Femme that we challenge that, and the fact that it is mainly female and showing these stories, not all of them positive. We have a lot of women who will come on and be very vulnerable with us and will be so open to letting their stories out and seeing these vulnerabilities and these strengths and taking from them something that we can learn rather than being against one another. I just don't think, whilst it may be ingrained with us from a while ago, from the Regency era, it shouldn't be here in the modern industry, especially in worlds where they're super competitive. I think we should be networking with as many amazing women as possible.
And is that something that in your leadership style, that's what you look to promote? Obviously, building your team, they're all women.
Mm-hmm.
Is this something that you're a true advocate for, to say, listen, there's space for us all. I want to support you. We support each other. We advocate for each other. And is that the type of, that's what you're looking to build in your team and the stories that you look to share?
Yeah, 100%. And we would never... I went on another podcast and said about like not saying yes to everything. I'm a really firm believer of that. And I would say to the girls in the team, if this doesn't work for the magazine, if it doesn't mirror our ethos, then no, we're not doing it, because it doesn't sit well with me. It doesn't sit well with the team. And what are we trying to get at the end of the day? Well, if it's not lining up, then it won't work for our readers. And so all the women in the team, and we're not just women because I choose it to be, it's just happened that way, but we're all super strong-minded. Everyone has passion, and I think that's what I gain from them. I gain inspiration. They don't always look to me for the next point of call or the next story. I'm eager to hear what they have to say, what they have to bring. The fashion show is a huge advocate for that, I think, because we all come together physically there's probably like 50 of us all together on a bigger team from a wider perspective. And we just all flourish together. There's no way a hierarchy could even be implemented, because everyone is just so loving and so caring and so
it's a very like a collaborative approach is
massively,
what you take.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I wouldn't let it get into a space where it was into a queen bee phenomenon, because it wouldn't be Femme Country. And I get so many incredible messages from girls saying how they can get involved and how they can be closer to Femme Country as more of a community. And I feel that we've built that just from the team being as we are, meeting people in event spaces. And again, it's just another tick on our box, really, of what I feel we've done in the right way as well.
Yes, and it's also you helping them feel empowered and that
Massively.
they have a voice.
Definitely. And I honestly, you don't even need to be a writer for us to come and have, your voice be heard and be written. I acknowledge anyone to reach out if you want to, come and have your voice sort of in our pages. I've had everyone from like a vet write seasonal articles to a woman who goes around on her Defender and she basically just like sees the Cotswolds from a different perspective. There's so many people that, and of all different ages as well, that was really important to me. We had a stand at the Yorkshire show, and I was honestly taken away by the amount of women who were over the age of 40 who subscribed. And it definitely, we had a meeting after and I said, we need to take this magazine into a new turn, because so many new women wanted to learn and be involved in it, not just from a younger generation. And that was a really special moment, actually.
I can imagine. That must be something you're really proud of.
Yeah, really proud. It was, in fact, the whole time we were there across the 3 days, or it might have even been 4, I think, after COVID, but we didn't really have many young people of my age come. It was sort of over 30s who were really interested. And it just brought our market research to a whole new level, which was really, diversifying.
It was a real different angle for you that you didn't even realize that you had there. So that would have been quite eye-opening for you.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me a little bit about, in respect of, you deal with a lot of different brands, don't you? From smalls to more popular brands. You do the events. You've been involved with York Fashion Week. What has been that real moment of, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm working with this brand or with this person? Has there been a particular moment for you that was a real, spotlight in your career?
I think there's been a few, actually. I always say that, so securing a relationship with Holland Cooper, so they're really, I'd say, dominating the country fashion space. And Jade, who owns it, is just a phenomenal woman. And again, someone I massively look up to. I used to spend like basically the spare money that I had, my spare change on buying blazers from them at Bicester Village under a discounted price, because I just loved the brand so much. I knew I couldn't afford it at that time, but I really wanted to invest. And they are heavily up on slow fashion. So that's why their price point is a bit higher. But yeah, when I created that relationship, and I remember we had a first talk about articles and reviewing and coming to an event, and they were saying, well, we'll dress you for this event. And I just thought, how have I gone from saving up for a blazer to working with the brand to being dressed and styled by the brand? I even had an appointment and, everything. It was just really, I was taken aback because that was like 16-year-old me to like 23-year-old me. And I'm now just turned 25, and we still have a strong connection with them. And it's so normal for me now just to reach out to them via my phone. I can literally just pick up the phone and say, hi, can we talk? And they're there. And that goes for the other big brands as well, like Jules. When we first worked with them on the fashion show, they were having a turn in their collections and coming back in, sort of like back in the saddle, as they said. And we were a prime kind of marketing space for them to do that with the fashion show. And I just thought, how have we got here? And I do question it a lot. But it is just a determination thing. I think I've always had it in me. I've always had a business spark, even though the magazine, I guess, was thrust upon me as a business. I've had to play so many different roles as in finance, marketing. You have to be so many people at once. And it's taught me a lot. And I think that every time we get that next step of we just booked so-and-so, or we've just signed a contract with, Jules to do their next campaign to shoot with them. It really is. Often it can be a quick thing, and you're like, oh gosh, that just happened, and suddenly you're realizing. But altogether, it really is mesmerizing for me to think back as if you told that 16-year-old going into the shop to buy, when she was buying, this one blazer that she couldn't afford at the time, to now, it is very surreal.
So looking back on that and reflecting, what would you say to 16-year-old Brontë going into that shop, in respect of dreams and aspirations and following your gut? I
think the answer would be, for me, I think people would think the answer would be, well, tell her not to go down to London, because she would end up coming back anyway. But I'm a firm believer of everything happens for a reason. And I would just say to kind of like be strong. Like, again, everything happens for a reason. Not to be scared of, well, if it takes a turn, what is next down that road? I think at the time, like I said, I was deeply saddened at the fact that I was coming home, and genuinely thought my life was, well, that's my career gone. Like, that's the dream of going to London, being a journalist and working for a big publication. Like, it's just gone. And I think I would have told the younger me to, don't worry, like everything will be fine. It'll all turn out okay in the end. And to just stay strong, because I've had so many people now, so many young girls come up to me and they'll say, I really want to be a fashion journalist. What's my route? They'll immediately say, I need to go down to London. And I sort of said to them now, well, no, you don't. Like, if you want to stay up here and you want to build something, you don't necessarily, or have you heard of this publication? And I think it was that stigma for me of everything thrives in London. The success for fashion and for the media is in London. And don't get me wrong, it still is. But I managed to create a business up in, Little Yorkshire. So I think there is an element of you can do business anywhere in the world, anywhere in the UK. You don't have to be in one spot. And I would definitely tell my younger self that now. Because I think I was genuinely scared that my career had ended.
Well, you literally prove that you can run a successful fashion magazine from Yorkshire and do it, in such a beautiful and elegant way as well. When you look at, who your reader is and what you're looking to print on your pages, what's important to you? What goes to the core of that decision in respect of running that edition?
I think for us, it's kind of what we said before about getting the different voices in. but it's getting to know who the reader is. Again, we had a stand at Yorkshire Show, and I spoke to lots of different people, and it became more obvious to me who our readership was and who our readership wasn't. And I think I took more on board who our readership wasn't rather than who our readership was, because for me, it was eliminating all the things that we weren't and trying to find a brand image for what we wanted to advocate, what our ethos was, what people were saying, oh, I don't like that. How can we change that? And I urge anyone in the country industry, it's quite a big thing in our industry, is to go to these shows, so the game fairs, the horse trials, and meet your consumer and your reader face to face. I had a lovely chat with a woman at the game fair last year, and she was saying how there isn't enough for women who are beaters, who go on shoots, and there's nothing about their fashion. And I did think that there isn't, even we haven't done something. And it's just talking to them and realizing what they want to see, and making, again, that connection with them, so that in our next issue, we bring something out that relates to them. And we did that in our recent one. We did a really big article on fishing, because, don't get me wrong, I thought fishing was a very boring sport. But when I looked into it and spoke to 5 different women who were in it, they were so passionate about it. And I thought, there is a space here for us to write about it. And we got such a great reception. Honestly, our emails were flooding in from PR companies saying, I'm so happy that you've touched on a sport that, one, is very male dominated, one that is typically, portrayed as quite boring, and showed it in a different light. And I think that's what Femme Country is all about, is taking those female spotlights, radiating them to the UK, because we've now got subscribers up and down the UK. We've hit nearly every postcode, which is really incredible. And relaying these stories and making them feel intimate. Like, I want our readers to come away feeling like they've achieved something. And at first, whilst we were fashion related, I think that for us was, did they buy that blazer? Did they buy that outfit? And now it's completely different 6 years on. It's, did they take what that woman said and relay it into their own business? Did they then start a business because so-and-so said that they would do this? And I think that's what we're achieving with our readers. And going back to the women against women thing, it's what I'm trying to challenge against, because I feel so strongly about it. And I want readers to be immersed into stories that they feel relate to them and they can mirror themselves with. And I remember I spoke to one business owner, and she said, I really don't want to talk about the fact I'm a mum. And I was like, why not? And she said, because I just really don't want to. I don't want to touch on it. I want to speak about business. But then we sort of spoke more, and I said, but you're so much more relatable as a mum, because there's so many women out there who are raising 2 kids or 3 kids alongside 2 dogs, and, maybe running a business with their husband, and it's hard. And speaking about the realities of that will make you so much more relatable. And in the end, we did, we touched all about her personal life, and she had a really great reception from it, because it was relatable and because people, were shown through that door of her life that they could relate to. But that just goes to show, with your knowledge as editor-in-chief, what's really going to attract and pull the readers in. And it's like you spoke about earlier, that, being, having that normalcy around it, and being like, approachable, and the fact that actually not everything has to be in a certain way. You reach your community and the people that you write for in so many different ways. So that's quite obviously something that comes across very loud and clear for you, as you speak with so much passion around it, and building that community around women and the countryside, and hearing their stories and advocating for that community, and showing that there is a different way of doing things. Yeah. So Brontë, tell me, what is next for the magazine? What is next for Femme? Gosh, I don't actually, at this point, where we're doing sort of a lot of 5-year sort of plans of where we want it to be. I personally would love to see Femme Country as a business group. I'd love us to be able to, invite businesses in, be able to do the whole thing. Because at the moment we're doing a lot of like photo shoot campaigns with them. I'd love to invite new brands to kind of come in, build up a business with us. But that is very, very long term. So at the moment, this year, we're working on keeping that relationship with our readers, doing so much more events. We're actually in April doing a kind of like a workshop where you can be on the front cover yourself and have a day of just being with the team and basically shooting a cover with us, what it would be like, and doing different things that, because I'm finding now that women want to put themselves in situations they don't want to be in. I think years ago it would have been unheard of and unseen. I think we would have just said, I know personally I would have gone, gosh, I won't do that, we'll never do that. Whereas now women are putting themselves into positions that might be feeling uncomfortable, but they know that in the end it's confidence building and they're gonna meet so many people from it. And I had in our fashion show a strong client who, Moira, she does hypnotherapy and sessions. And she just came to me and said, I really want to model in your show. And I was like, okay, yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, we can make this happen. And she was I knew she didn't want to do it. I knew there was an element inside of her that was like, I don't want to do this. But I know that for my confidence, I'm going to come out of this a new woman and I'm going to see things in a different light. And it was amazing. And she was a true advocate for her business as well and promoting that like self-love. And yeah, just watching that flourish that came out of her was incredible. So doing things like events to see that in pure form is really, really lovely. But we have some incredible cover ladies this year. I can't say who it is, unfortunately, but they're truly mega. And I cannot wait for everyone. I think it's going to be a true turning point between summer and autumn as to where this magazine goes. And I think the lady who's going to be on the cover could take us to massive turns, which we're not even sure about yet, which I'm really excited for. But our spring cover has two beautiful sisters on the front who both have businesses and are working with huge brands. And so we're really looking forward to that coming out in the end of March. We'll be at the game fair again and hopefully Bramham horse trials as well. So getting more out there into events. And to be honest, I'm just really excited to kind of like be in the unknown. I'm really open to not having a plan. If you ask my boyfriend and many people that work with me, I'm a very unorganized person, which is very, you might look at my Instagram and the business and think, God, it looks so organized. Like, no, it's utter chaos behind the scenes, I promise. But I don't mind that. It keeps my sort of business veins flowing and it makes me excited for what the unknown is going to be. And so, we might have a change of things for next week's itinerary or the schedule or something in the magazine might change. And I'm really kind of steady on that happening. So I'm just excited to see, I guess, what's not to come for us that we don't know about for 2025 as well.
What's yet to come through, the unexpected. Yeah,
I'm excited to see what unexpected things come through our door.
Well, Brontë, it sounds like, you've got so many exciting chapters ahead. Your business is going from strength to strength and it'll continue to do so under your leadership. I've really enjoyed getting to know you, hearing about your journey and, that inspirational start and, listening to your gut, believing in yourself, your grit, determination. And, I know that there's going to be many of our listeners that are out there thinking, oh gosh, what would I do if this was me? What could I do? If there was one thing that you could say as we wrap up to them, if you were to start from scratch, if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice for somebody wanting to just start anything from scratch, what would it be?
I think it would just be to do it. Don't waste time. I know I sound a bit sort of like forthright with that, but there was part of me that sort of and ahed about doing the magazine. And I'm such an overthinker. My brain will go to the worst possible thing. If you put something in front of me, it will just immediately jump to what's the worst possible thing that could happen. And I think I did play with that a lot, starting the business of, but this bad thing could happen. And I never strongly looked at the positives and, you know, saw that these challenges will make me into a stronger female. So I would just say jump on something, like really go for it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. You can try something new, but just don't waste time. Just even if you've got ideas, write them down, and just always look out for help, especially for us as women. I'm a true advocate for seeking help, leaning on each other's shoulders. Go and attend networking sessions. You know, don't see the girl next door as someone to be feared or that you need to have competition with, because she might have some knowledge that you don't have. And I've definitely learned that along the way. And so, yeah, I think to reach out to as many people as possible, network, and get yourself in a space or make your own space.
Thank you so much, Brontë. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been lovely.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that, please like, share, and subscribe, and we hope to see you again soon.